The third Crew game by Ubisoft, Motorfest, marks quite a bit of a departure for the series. Sure, you're still driving cars, riding motorcycles, and flying planes across an open world environment, but this time it's sharper, tighter, and more focused instead of just banking on scale as a unique selling point. The Crew 2 had a map between 5,000 to 7,000 kilometers squared thanks in part to technology by Asobo Studio, but this time it's more about the vibe with neon light, British rock duo Royal Blood on the stereo, and meaty vehicle handling. A fundamental gameplay hook that the first Crew titles didn't quite get right, and something that Motorfest makes big strides in. Instead of overlooking Ivory Tower's efforts as yet another middling attempt, all of a sudden, we're rather interested. Here's what we think the Crew Motorfest must do to stand out in an age of Forza Horizon. Let's dive into the car dynamics immediately, as it's something that can make or break a game like this. The past two games in the series have suffered from floaty and inconsistent on-road behavior. While the live summits, dynamic weather, and gigantic worlds initially sucked us in, the driving experience lacked finesse and, for us, less engagement. Now, let's get this big caveat out of the way right now. The Crew Motorfest isn't a simulator, not even close, but it's also not trying to be that either. But the cars we tested now have a weight to them which was missing in the 2018 game. We felt more in control this time around, apart from what looked to be some drifting based missions at a later point in the game, but in our experience, each corner was quicker by being neater and more precise. Actually breaking ahead of a corner and clipping an apex was the quickest way and the most rewarding way around the corner. The tight hairpins of a mountain pass in our Honda NSX, for example, were better taken with a subtle steering input, with the parking brake only being used in emergency scenarios where you misjudge your corner entry speed. You can tap the parking brake to turn tighter, but it rightly unsettles the car to a point of losing momentum. If we had to compare it to another racer, it would be Need for Speed Unbound, but this feels, if anything, more precise. This is further highlighted with the fictional single-seater races taking place on a dedicated racetrack. Point and squirt is what we would call this driving technique. There was even a mid-race pit stop for fresh tires. It is worth mentioning at this juncture that the physics engine doesn't just do cars, but motorcycles, planes, boats, monster trucks, and quad bikes. However, it seems like four-wheeled vehicles are the priority at this time. The open-wheelers highlight the variability of vehicles within the roster, which all return from the Crew 2, quite literally. There will be a way of importing your existing car collection from the now 5-year-old title into Motorfest. Exact details on this process, and if it really is every vehicle, are set to be confirmed at a later date. Still, having that functionality hints at a giant content list, and we're impressed with what we've seen so far in terms of new additions. This is spearheaded by the upcoming Lamborghini Revuelto, the mid-engine V12 hybrid supercar making its gaming debut. But variety is key, not just the one showstopper. There's been a concerted effort to integrate vehicles from the past too. Yes, there is the current Ford Bronco and the Porsche Taycan, plus some form of futuristic side-by-side ATV thing, but there's also a Shelby Cobra and even Toyotas for the first time. After a pulsating prologue which mixed several car types, we decided to play through a Made in Japan playlist which focused on 1990s sports cars. While our aforementioned NSX was stock, we also tested out a highly modified Supra that showcases one of the prior game's strengths, near endless visual customizations. While we weren't able to modify a car ourselves at this early stage, the extreme body kit, decals, and sleek headlight design highlighted what's possible. Other contemporary rivals in this genre offer similar abilities, but none in our opinion offer the same scope and options that are set to be offered here. This time around, the races are grouped together in a themed playlist, so in theory you may have a garage of overly powered Raging Bulls, but that format will place you within older cars, off-roaders, or motorcycles. Each playlist has a mini story arc too. While story arc may be a bit of a stretch, but there are rivals, lines of dialogue, and an attempt to add some sense of character at least. This is opposed to the Crew 2, which gave you a giant map with little direction as what you must complete next, or the first Crew game where we managed to complete the entire game in one Nissan 350Z. Motorfest seems to really want you to try all sorts of different rides throughout its main campaign. There seems to be less of a grind and more of a structure, and thus a greater sense of variety. As ever, this is all paired with endless unlocks such as car parts or whole cars, with Crew Bucks also making a return as well. Adding to the sense of occasion is the Hawaii location, more specifically the main Oahu Island. On the surface, much smaller than the entirety of the United States from the previous title, but as we mentioned earlier, that's not a bad thing. In many ways, it's reminiscent of Test Drive Unlimited and also using this location, a competing series due for a reboot sometime later this year, providing Ubisoft with some serious competition. There's a far greater detail to the surrounding environment this time as well, from deformable barriers and track furniture to small bushes that can be flattened. Each playlist not only curates a narrative and vehicle choice, but aesthetics too, a far cry from some of the sparse areas in prior Crew titles. It made us realize that size isn't everything. The arms race to create the largest open world environment we hope is over. There must be a balance between scope and unique biome individuality. Think Forza Horizon 4. There will be dense jungles, ashy volcanoes, and endless beaches alongside the main town of Honolulu. Our hands-on preview here was only a small slice, but the omens are good so far, especially when the visuals look next-gen impressive. However, full disclosure, the footage you see here is on a PC and on Ubisoft's PC specifically, so worth bearing in mind that the base Xbox One version is unlikely to look this good. But, and it's a big but, can the Crew Motorfest differentiate itself from existing releases? The Forza Horizon trope has been played out many times before, and we've mentioned it in this video's title. It's very easy to look at the Microsoft series to compare and contrast, and we get it, not everyone enjoys those games, despite the popularity that comes with it being on Game Pass. It's just that, in our opinion, Forza Horizon leads this open world driving niche within racing games right now. When Motorfest uses certain mechanics in the same way, it's hard not to compare the two franchises. After all, it is said that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and with Motorfest having a festival vibe and destructible flags, which are things taken straight out of Playground Games' playbook, you can see why we compare the two. Although, the Crew does have one significant advantage, it's releasing on PlayStation. Apart from Need for Speed Unbound, PlayStation players are starved of an open world driving game. To that point, The Crew 2 was Europe's 6th best-selling game for PS4 in 2021, and Ubisoft states that it still has millions of active monthly players. So, if you have a PS4 or PS5, it borrows some of the best bits of Forza Horizon, tweaks them and adds in more vehicles, more missions, and a playlist structure, that could be a win. But as a whole, we're awaiting the finished product to see if it can do enough to stand out. The Crew Motorfest will be launching on September 14th for PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and the Xbox Series X and S. If you pre-order the Gold or Ultimate Editions, you do get a 3-day early access. What do you think so far? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll be updating you closer to release, so subscribe to not miss out.